Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Conservatives Cool Talk Radio, the weekly news. This is your host Wayne Bradley, and tonight we're going to talk Second Amendment rights. We're going to talk gun rights protection, and I've got someone here that's more than qualified, NRA Certified Instructor Rick Ector. Welcome to the show tonight, sir.
Hey, welcome to you as well, man. I've been following your show. You've been on for a while now, and I'm honored that you elected to have me on the show tonight.
I told you we were going to make this happen. I'm honored to have you come on the show. Like I said, I keep up with you, too, also on your website, and I see a lot of the things you're doing to help you people be prepared here in this city. So thank you for coming on. Can we get a little information about yourself? Can you introduce yourself to the people listening and just give us some of your background?
Not a problem. Right off the top, I am an NRA certified trainer. I am a training counselor. A training counselor is someone who the NRA has deemed to be appointable to a position to train other people to be instructors. I can instruct for every credential for which I am trained to teach. That would be pistol, shotgun, rifle, personal protection, which is the CCW class or the CPL, concealed pistol license class. Home firearm safety. I'm also a chief range safety officer, so I can inspect shooting ranges and oversee shooting activities at ranges, and also train people to be RSOs. I'm a life member of the NRA. I'm also an NRA member recruiter. I'm also a gun rights activist, and I'm very involved in the gun rights movement. I was just featured on the NRAnews.com Cameron Company show about a week or so ago down at the NRA National Convention in Charlotte.
How was that event?
Man, it was awesome. It was great. I'm waiting for John Pop and Cam Edwards to set up the video so I can put it out on my blog and on my website. I'm a blogger. I blog on issues that relate to lethal force, self-defense, personal protection, CPL, and crime in general. Looking for a few posts that are coming up. The last post I did on my blog, which is Legally Armed in Detroit, I was talking about a statement that Dave Bing made with respect to the Ayanna Jones tragedy, where the 7-year-old girl was killed by that rifle that was in possession of the police officer.
Right.
One thing
that's something definitely, I thought it was very interesting. I was reading that blog on your site, and like you said, he told him asked him to come out the closet. He's anti-gun. Why do you think he made it an issue to say we really have to take a hard look at gun control as opposed to dealing with the actual person that, obviously possibly made a mistake, which was the police officer?
Well, I'm going to jump right on that first and foremost because I'm just going to throw out my opinion based on my years of training as a firearms trainer. We have some fundamental firearm safety rules that we just know in and out, and I'm going to run through them real quick because there aren't that many of them.
Okay.
Rule 0 is to always treat your firearm as if it is loaded. Rule 1 is to always keep it pointed in the safe direction. Rule 2 is to always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to fire, and that's the key one. Always keep your firearm unloaded till it's ready for use, and to be sure of your target and what is beyond it. I'm going to focus on rule number 2. A trained SWAT officer or SRT, Special Response Team, whatever they're calling these guys, man, you're not to have your finger on a firearm under any circumstances until you're ready to pull that trigger.
Right.
Now, different accounts say that either somebody bumped into someone or someone grabbed his firearm. Merely doing that, if it happens, should not have caused that firearm to discharge. So me as a trainer and what I teach and espouse, I hold that officer completely accountable for what happened to that little girl.
Wow.
Based on that. Going back to what you were asking about Mayor Bing and how that statement came out, people were wondering where Dave Bing was. It was like he dropped off the planet, and they were like, well, where's the leadership? Who's going to speak on this tragedy? And when he did finally make an appearance, man, it was really, bizarre because out of nowhere, he came out and said we really have to take a strong look at gun control when we're really talking about a firearm under control of one of his police officers that killed that little girl. So it seemed odd, and then I really got into it, and I started researching it, and lo and behold, I went to a website called Mayors Against Illegal Guns, and I know that sounds like an organization that everybody could get behind. I mean, who wouldn't be behind a group that would call itself Mayors Against Illegal Guns? Well, the truth of the matter is that that's a very anti-gun group, and they're not just against illegal guns. They're against all guns. They're anti-Second Amendment. They're trying to take away our rights to keep and bear a firearm. And, yes, Dave Bing is a member of that organization, and on my blog I stated that he came out of the closet, metaphorically speaking, because he outed himself as being anti-gun, and by extension, that's anti-freedom.
Right, exactly. And the thing is, in Detroit, which is probably one of the toughest cities in the country, why would a mayor who was short on police, short on protection, why would he endorse taking away the rights of individuals to protect themselves in the city?
Well, it's a couple of things going, but here's one of the interesting things that came out of the media the other day. Came out of the media that DPD graduated 43 police officers. The reality is City Council has slashed the budget severely, and it's looking very doubtful that we're going to be able to hire those officers that we, significantly need. So there's the irony that we're down approximately 300 officers, and when we just trained 33 that we can't hire. And then crime, of course, and DPD's ability to respond to crime is going to be an issue. Currently, they say that their response time is 28 minutes.
28 minutes.
We say it was up to 34 a couple of months ago. But let's say someone kicks in someone's door at 3 o'clock in the morning. Someone kicks in your door, and if you can grab a cell phone and call the police, if you believe them that it takes 28 minutes for them to get there, 28 minutes, in my opinion, is way too long.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lifetime.
Anything that can be done in 25 or less, 5 minutes or less.
Here's the thing. Let me finish that. Here's the thing with that. A lot of people want to blame the gun, want to blame the firearm. A firearm has never harmed anyone all by itself. It is only in communities in which a certain style of liberal leadership, man, that they want to blame everyone but the criminal. They want to blame, high unemployment. They want to blame a lack of jobs. There was a time when we didn't have anything as a community, but we were still lawful and law-abiding. We really have a breakdown of our society. But let me just say that one story that's really troubling to me is over in Chicago, man. They don't even have the right to have firearms in Chicago in their own house. They basically are turning law-abiding citizens into criminals because even though guns are illegal, people are getting shot every day in Chicago. But anyway, some fool kicked in this 80-year-old woman's door, and she's 80 years old. She walks on the cane, and she had a gun. She wasn't supposed to have one, but her assailant who kicked in her door, he had one. He missed, and she was an ex-Army veteran. She hit. So now the Mayor Daley, with his gun ban, who has armed protection at the expense of his citizens of his city through the police, now has to make a decision as to whether he's going to charge this 80-year-old woman or become a hypocrite towards his gun control laws. He's in a hard place right now. The thing is that gun bans, the thing that a lot of people don't get, gun bans don't work. And here's why they don't work. They don't work, and people can't wrap their minds around this. Criminals, by definition, do not obey the law. So you can create how many laws you want to create. It's not going to stop the criminals from getting guns and from using guns and from committing violent crimes with those guns. What you do with gun bans is that you disarm law-abiding citizens who are now completely unarmed and are helpless victims for these mad predators with firearms. And basically, it's an environment in which a lot of people are going to be unnecessarily harmed. Gun control kills.
I couldn't put it better myself right there. How long have you been teaching the classes?
I've been teaching going on 4 years now, man, and it's really interesting how this all came to be. There was a time, if you went back like 6, 7 years, and if you had the ability to look into a forecasting machine or a time machine, you would have told me 7 years ago that to this day, this very day, I would be a firearms instructor, advocating open carry, having open carry events, and training people to be firearms instructors and teaching the concealed pistol license classes. I would have thought you were off your rocker, for real.
Okay.
I think I was really forced into this, man. Just a product of the environment here. You know, make a long story short, I was a cat who was married, had a family. I didn't hang out late at night at home. I came home one night after dark. You know, it gets dark early in the fall, winter time. Two young guys, 19, 20, pretty much reflective of what's going on today. Robbed me in my own backyard, man. So I was lucky that I was not seriously harmed, although they were trying to get me to do some crazy things like have me go into my home at gunpoint or lead me to an ATM machine because the $50 they got or the watch and wallet and jewelry I had on wasn't enough. But you know what? I told them, no, you guys you hit the jackpot. You got more than enough than people getting the robbery. I'm not going with you all. Right. They took off. So, you know, long story short, I did the thing, man. I went to the police station. I filed the report. They looked like they were, you know, fighting amongst themselves to see who would have to have the responsibility of taking the report. I inquired about getting what I thought was a CCW license. And, you know, they came at me like, man, you know, why do you want to do that? All you're going to do is be contributing to the problem. They weren't really very helpful about the whole thing.
Was this actually in Detroit?
Actually in Detroit, the precinct over there on Plymouth.
Okay.
Well, you know, since they consolidated all these precincts to 8 to 6, man, I really don't know what to call it. It might be the West District. I don't know. The one on Plymouth.
I know.
So anyway, you know. So I did, you know, I found out the process, and I got me a 10-day purchase permit. I bought me a handgun. I found me a class. I took a class. I got my concealed pistol license. And I just found everything I could find on lethal force laws, firearm laws, personal protection, taking additional training classes, and eventually I got to a point where I wanted to teach, man. Because, you know, at that time things were getting bad, but they aren't nowhere near as bad as today.
Right.
I mean, in the paper just a couple of days ago, they said the city of Detroit is sitting on like thousands upon thousands of rape kits that need to be processed. You know, we got women who've been victimized, and the evidence is not being processed. Right. So it's like, if you ask me, they're not even trying to catch rapists right now, if you ask me.
It's severely undermanned to do a lot of effective police work in the city right now.
You know, and I don't want people to think that I'm anti-gun. No, I'm not anti-gun. They're fighting a valiant and brave battle, man, but the bottom line, they are understaffed. They are undermanned. The results they're giving us are not sufficient. And folks, in my opinion, need to take on a more active role in their personal protection. They need to take care of their families, and they need to take care of themselves and make sure that they're safe. I mean, we're not even safe on the buses. You know, the law enforcement community was going to police the public transportation. We were going to have Wayne County sheriffs, and then the Police Officers Union for Detroit got involved, and then DPD said they were going to do it. And it doesn't appear that they're doing it now because we had 3 outrageous incidents on buses like within the last 6 months. Going back last fall, we had a case where a guy actually hijacked a city bus. And then we had a case where this one bus driver was under attack by 2 females that got videotaped on somebody's cell phone camera. And then there was the other incident where this bus driver got slashed, you know, with a razor. So, a box cutter, excuse me. You know, even public transportation isn't safe. Right. You're not safe anywhere. You're not.
For someone, now, and this is the question, I'll play devil's advocate right here. For someone that's an anti-gun person, their question would be, well, what's having a gun on you going to do to make the situation any better? And I'll let you answer it that way.
Would it make the situation any better? You know, here's the thing, man. People get caught up in as to whether you having a gun for personal protection, whether that means you're making it better. I don't think making it better is a woman coming home from work being robbed in her driveway or being raped. I don't call that making it better. Right. You know, a lot of people like to say, well, you know, just give them what they want. All they want is the purse or the car. No, it's not the purse or the car that's in jeopardy. It's that person's life that's in jeopardy. Right. I would feel so much better for a woman to have to justify shooting a rapist than to have one more woman being raped to have another kit thrown in a overflow property room that's not being processed. Here's the thing. We are talking about personal protection. We're not talking about vigilantism. We're talking about individuals who are doing nothing more than going about their day-to-day business, living their lives, running their business, taking care of their families, going to work, and just living. And then people just don't understand that there's folks in our community who do nothing more than every day they get up and they put on clothes, they grab a tool of violence, and they go out and rob, rape, and kill all day.
It's very true. A lot, like I said, they're not looking at it obviously from looking at it from the person, that the innocent, law-abiding citizen standpoint of, why you obviously need to be, having protection for yourself. How often do you do your classes?
I teach my classes every other weekend, alternating on the weekend day. For example, I taught a class this past Sunday, so the next class I'll do will be another 2 weeks from that last Sunday. So like my next class will be Saturday, June 5th. I actually have my schedule for the whole year posted on my branded website, which is DetroitCCW.com.
Okay, in case you didn't hear that, folks, say it one more time, Rick.
Yes, sir. The name of my website is Rick's Firearm Academy Detroit, but my URL, the address to my website on the internet, is DetroitCCW.com.
All right. And I was checking out the website. You have a lot of different YouTube clips of people and testimonials. How many people? And I have to put it this way because I saw it on your website. How many people have you helped get laid?
Laid for the uninitiative is Legally Armed in Detroit. That's the name of my blog, Legally Armed in Detroit. And I don't keep a real accurate count, man, but I teach the class every other weekend, and I'm not like a lot of other services out here. I'm really doing it the right way. I'm keeping the class sizes down under 15. I have an actual attorney that comes in and actually teaches folks the law. And there's been a couple of folks out here that have been attacked, and in my opinion, their actions weren't completely lawful. I don't know whether they were trained the right way, but I'm thinking they didn't learn the law.
Right.
But I do it the right way, and I make sure that when they leave me, there is absolutely no doubt in their mind with what they can do and what they can't do. My class is designed to teach them skills to protect themselves. It's designed to keep them from being out of prison. That is not to get charged with a crime because they got attacked. I also is going to keep them from getting sued, and it will also keep them from being unnecessarily harmed. The last thing you want to do is be carrying a gun out on the streets for personal protection, and you don't know the law. And so you're hesitant to defend yourself under that narrow band of circumstances in which you're actually authorized to defend yourself, and you don't because you're more worried about the legal system, and then you allow yourself to get hurt where, had you known the law, you could immediately start defending yourself.
Right. Now, and I was looking through on the website. You were talking about a few scenarios, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. You were talking about it's a bad idea to chase criminals. And can you explain maybe some of these scenarios that you were talking about on the website, and just give people an idea of some of the, obviously the do's and the obviously right here the don'ts of having a CCW license. Well,
here's the thing, man. And I tell people exactly this in my class. A concealed pistol license is not a James Bond 007 license. We all know that James Bond, he had a license to kill. When you have a concealed pistol license, it is not a license to kill. We carry a firearm for personal protection to stop threats. We shoot to stop the threat. When the threat is ended, that is absolutely positively when we must stop shooting. Now, as a consequence of shooting that person who did present that threat, they may die, but you know what? That was not the intent. The intent was to stop the threat. In general, in Michigan, it is lawful to use lethal force if you are somewhere you have a legal right to be. You are not in the commission of a crime, and you have a reasonable and honest belief that you are in imminent jeopardy of severe bodily harm, sexual assault, or death. That is it. That is the only time that you can shoot someone to use lethal force or to defend yourself. Now, if you're in a situation, and there's been a couple of cases in the media, man, where you're coming home at night and there's a couple of cats in your backyard trying to rip you off, you chase them off your property and they're gone, you know what? That really should be the end of it.
Right.
Because once you start chasing people, it becomes problematic. Like the dog who's chasing after a car. That car stops at a red light. Okay, now the dog has caught the car. Now what's the dog going to do? In one case, as was reported in the media, according to what the police say, the bad guy, and I use bad guy in quotation marks, got tired, stopped, turned around and said, "What are you going to do? Shoot me." And the guy with the gun actually did shoot the criminal. And you know what? The guy that did the shooting, he's on trial for he's going to be on trial for second-degree murder and felony firearm. And there's this other case that you may have heard of where an individual was somewhere on the west side working on some rental property. A 19-year-old guy approached him and then took him into the house and robbed him of his money, his wallet, and I think they got a few other personal things from him. The guy left, took the victim's car, and was driving away. And then, like I said, once you've been robbed, you've been robbed. It's no longer imminent. So the guy came out the house with a gun, and he shot the car, and the criminal crashed into a tree, and then the guy jumped out and dropped what apparently was a fake gun. And then he's running down the street, and the guy with the gun, he shoots at him, but you know what? He missed. He missed, and he shot someone's grandmother. So, through a weird quirk in the law, they're going to charge the 19-year-old with a charge called felony murder, and that's basically whereas if you commit a felony and someone ends up dying, they could charge you with murder. So that's what they're doing to him, but they still got a way what to do with the 65-year-old gentleman who actually fired the shot that hit the woman. So,
wow.
If he had not chased the woman, we wouldn't have this sad state that we have. But also, I don't want to mislead folks either. If you have a firearm for personal protection under that narrow band of circumstances we talked about before, if you are under that imminent threat, you are authorized to defend yourself. Right. Carry your gun daily, everywhere you legally can, and when those situations present itself, defend your life, protect yourself. Right. Do it then.
That's words of the wise. That's definitely good advice there. I had a couple questions regarding traveling with your concealed, with your CCW. How do you prepare if you want to go on a trip somewhere, like how you went to North Carolina? How do you prepare to go to some different states where they might have different gun laws?
Excellent question. I've made the decision that I was going to go to the National Rifle Association convention in Charlotte. What I needed to do was I needed to find out what route that I was going to take to Charlotte. I needed to find out the gun laws. Well, I had to actually find out who had firearm carry reciprocity with Michigan. What that means is what states, if I was to travel through with my firearm concealed, who would recognize my right to carry a concealed firearm based on the fact that I have one in Michigan? Okay. Currently, there are 35 states that have reciprocal concealed handgun licensing agreements with Michigan. Fortunately, every state that I was traveling through recognized Michigan's permits. So the thing that I had to focus on then was, then I have to research each state's laws, and I had to go through Ohio, West Virginia, and then into North Carolina. And I actually dipped into South Carolina for a Friends of South Carolina NRA dinner on that Thursday, which was the 13th. So I actually went through quite a few states. Okay. And you need to know what their laws are, where their pistol-free zones are. What are their rules on lethal force? Do they have a duty to retreat? Are you required to try to attempt to get away or to retreat from the situation where practical, if you can, before you use lethal force? And these are all the things that you got to know on a state-by-state basis. And it's a lot to keep track of, man, but the ability to have the means to protect yourself while you're traveling on vacation, it's worth taking the time to do the research to prepare for a trip.
Right, okay, so that's essentially on any trip you make, based on where you're going and the route, you're going to have to study, like you said, study each state and make sure you're not violating any of their laws, right?
It's a shame that given the fact that we have the Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, that in some states we don't, have that recognition. It's like we have a constitutional right that doesn't exist if we cross the wrong state border. But right. It is what it is, and either you can drive around those non-reciprocal states or you can avail yourself of federal law. Under federal law, you can unload your firearm, separate it from ammunition, put the firearm in a locked container in the rearmost part or the locked trunk of your vehicle, and that is legal in all 50 states.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Another question here for you. I was looking over the class. What would you say the biggest difference in your class compared to some of the other people here locally? And do you offer any private classes was my second question.
Well, there aren't too many people that are doing it the right way. You know, I get approached by a lot of cats that want to partner up and do a few things, but I look at how they're handling the class and how they're teaching it. You know, it's not up to snuff. The state of Michigan has some serious requirements that need to be met. The class needs to be 8 hours long. 5 hours of that has to be devoted to specific topics. Another 3 hours of that has to be devoted to the gun range. You know, and then they want you to know the law. So you got to have a lawyer there, or either have an individual who's qualified to teach the law. And, you know, these things cost money. And there's some people that are in it for the money, and they're not really looking to give people the value and the information that they need to make a wise decision. Because it's really easy to run afoul of the gun laws. If you have a gun in your possession, it is extremely easy to break the law unintentionally and unknowingly. And you really need to know it, because the penalties associated with violating the gun law is usually stiff and severe. As a matter of fact, there's even people out here that are just selling certificates. And you know what? Truth be told, there's a lot of police officers doing it. But, you know, it is what it is. But
I understand that. Now, we were talking just a moment ago about our Second Amendment rights, and I want to get your take and your opinion on this. Our Secretary of, Attorney General Holder does not really believe in Second Amendment rights to individuals. And how do you feel about his take on that and his current administration's overall take on handguns?
Well, you know, there is no, mistake or there is no misunderstanding. The current administration in Washington, and that is the White House, is decidedly anti-gun. You know, they say these things when they were running for office. No, we're not trying to take your gun, or they'll talk in code when they say stuff like, well, we're going to leave the hunters and the sportsmen alone. Well, there's a lot of other people who carry handguns for other reasons other than sport and for hunting. We carry these handguns for personal protection. And then you hear all these weird and wild arguments like, okay, now all of a sudden, because of Mexico's drug problem, we need to have gun control in our country. That was one thing that the Mexican president is trying to float through Attorney General Eric Holder and to President Obama. And then you look at President Obama's picks for the Supreme Court. His first pick that he actually got on the court was Sotomayor. They asked her, did she believe that U.S. citizens had a right to self-defense? Her answer to that question was, I do not know. How can you say that a United States citizen does not have a right to self-defense? That floors me.
Right.
And this next question that they're trying to put on the bench, I mean, for other reasons, you know, it's like they want to ban literature so that we can educate folks about what's going on and what's happening. It's not even sure to this newest nominee whether you can disseminate political information.
Right. Yeah, I mean, they're talking about reviving the talk of the assault weapons ban. And I guess the point of that is all these bans do, like you said before, is they make it hard for people who actually are legitimate gun owners to, I mean, that does not stop criminals from getting guns. I mean, that's been proven.
And the funny thing is if you look at the stats, especially the ones that were just released this past week, crime numbers nationally are going down. But you know what? The only place where they're not really going down, these are the places in which gun control is firmly entrenched. Right. And it's no mistake that gun laws are most severe where people of color live. We're talking about your Chicagos, Washington, D.C., L.A., Milwaukee. Anywhere there's a sizable percentage of black folks, you usually have tough, strict, and severe gun laws. How did I forget New York?
Yeah, they were the worst. They put people in jail forever for having a gun anywhere near you. You don't even have to have it on you when they're up there.
It's only been recent in which we've had revised gun laws here in the state of Michigan. You know, if you would oblige me for a minute, I'm going to give you a little history lesson.
Yes, please.
The trial of the century was not the Kwame Kilpatrick case. The trial of the century in Michigan was the Ossian Sweet case. This was a gentleman who was a doctor in the city of Detroit in the 20s in 1925. He wanted to move into a predominantly white neighborhood. And the Klan told him, no, you can't move to this neighborhood. Well, the Klan, in the city at that time, they didn't call themselves the Klan. They gave themselves these misleading titles, kind of like Mayors Against Illegal Guns. These guys would call themselves the Neighborhood Improvement Association. But make no mistake about it, these were the Klan. On the night in question when he moved in with his family, and he wisely brought some long guns with him. Okay. The Klan, by many accounts that are published, that there were at least 500 people in the field directly across from his house. The police were there in the streets just watching as monitors. Long story short, gunfire erupted. There was a shootout. A couple of the Klan members that was in the mob got shot and killed. Only then did the police intervene, and they arrested Dr. Sweet and one of his brothers. The trial of the century went down. It was presided by none other than Mr. Frank Murphy, who has a courthouse named for himself here in Detroit, who also went on to become the United States Supreme Court Justice. And the gentleman that represented Dr. Sweet was Clarence Darrow, a gentleman who was well known in the legal field, particularly for the Scopes trials.
Okay.
Dr. Sweet and his brother were acquitted by an all-white jury. Now, after they were acquitted, the state of Michigan, at the behest of the Klan, created the 1927 Michigan Firearms Act. It was this onerous legislation that pretty much led the country with respect to gun control laws. This law required then at this point for all handguns to be licensed in the state of Michigan. It also created county gun boards. State of Michigan, we got 83, so now we got 83 county gun boards. And it was the duty of these county gun boards to deal with the licensing of handguns, purchases to purchase, and also concealed pistol licenses. Okay. So guess what happened? Everybody in the non-ethnic communities got what they wanted, and people that were in the ethnic or the black communities were denied. It was a form of racism, a form of gun control. Gun control has racist roots, and it is completely designed to disarm people of color. Nothing more, nothing less. It's straight up racism. So anyway, we lived with that system all the way up until 2000, and Public Act 381 passed. And you know what? The people were up in arms about it, pun not intended. You had David Gorsuch, who to this day in Oakland County, who removed himself from the county gun board. You got Michael Duggan from Wayne County. He removed himself from the process. They did not want to be a part of a process in which the playing field was leveled such that anyone, regardless of color, if they could meet the requirements for the license, the state of Michigan law says that they have to give it to you. It shall issue. Right. So, there was a lot of pent-up demand, and when we eventually got to the point where we got some people getting these permits for personal protection because we need them, but there are a lot of people that are not getting them because they're being lied to either explicitly or implicitly. They're being told that people with firearms are criminals. Only the police and criminals have firearms. Law-abiding citizens are not entrusted to own a firearm and to responsibly maintain it and use it lawfully. These are lies. These are lies that people are believing. And some of the most unusual people are complicit in these lies. You got individuals in law enforcement who are peddling these stories. And you got people in the religious communities that are funneling and disseminating this information. And it's just wrong, and it's deceitful, and it's really onerous.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you gave me some history on that and some more insight on the history of the gun laws here. Was it John Engler that who changed the gun laws here?
It was Governor Engler that signed it into law, and I am immensely appreciative of that act. As a matter of fact, I actually drew a little controversy on my Facebook page. On my Facebook page, I did a tribute to Black history, and I did a tribute to individuals who were significant with regards to either guns or for the cause of freedom. And, I had people like Ossian Sweet, of course. I had a friend of mine who was the very first prominent man of color in the gun rights industry, Mr. Ken Blanchard, UrbanShooterPodcast.com. And I had like some other people that probably wouldn't come to mind immediately, like Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey. Man, I was all over the map, just pulling folks that had serious contributions. And yes, I put Governor England in there. For the simple fact,
I personally thanked him myself when I saw him up in Mackinac. So that was probably one of the best things that you did for the state.
That was one of the best things that he did because he allowed us to become full citizens. You're not a full citizen unless you can sit on a jury or, as we learned in the Dred Scott case, that you can actually own a handgun. We have the ability to get full citizenship. We should avail ourselves of it.
Excellent, excellent. Can you give me some details of some of the upcoming events you got? We talked earlier about the open carry rally you're having. Can you give a little information about that?
Absolutely. I am calling upon law-abiding citizens who want to exercise their right to keep and bear a firearm. That is, we're talking about open carry. Open carry for a lot of people are they are being misinformed about open carry. A lot of people are hearing that there's this new law that came into effect that says that you can carry a handgun. It's not a new law. This law has existed ever since Michigan became a part of the Union back in 1837. We're talking about we're rapidly approaching 200 years, man.
Right.
But basically, anybody who is not precluded from carrying a firearm, and we're talking about, we got so far away from shall not be infringed, but that's an argument for another day. But currently, if you got a felony, you can't. You've lost your right to possess and own a firearm. You can't be in possession of a firearm. If you got through the Lautenberg Agreement, you can't have a misdemeanor domestic violence conviction. You can't be someone who is a fugitive from justice. You can't be someone who has a personal protection order against you. But as long as you're 18 years of age, you can legally own a handgun. And if you're able to legally own a handgun and get that handgun registered in your name, you can legally carry that handgun in the state of Michigan in a holster such that it is completely visible and folks can see you. There's a couple of things that you got to be aware of. There's some pistol-free zones, some places that you cannot go with it. You can't be in a vehicle. If you're in a vehicle, in a car or on a motorcycle or other motorized conveyance, you need to have a concealed pistol license. So basically, you're going to need to be on foot. So for individuals that want to participate, those with concealed pistol licenses and those who do not, if you do not, transport it the way we talked about earlier, unloaded, registered handgun, separated from ammunition, in a container, in the rearmost part of your vehicle. And then when we get there, then you can holster it in a holster such that everyone can see it. This event will happen on Sunday, August 22nd. We're going to start at 10 o'clock out at Belle Isle at shed number 10. Shed number 10, August 22nd, Belle Isle, rain or shine.
All right. Well, can you give us the website address again, and give them the blog site too, so they can go check that out. And like I said, so everybody who's listening in can follow you, and also maybe your Twitter address.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm on all the major channels. My official website is Rick's Firearm Academy in Detroit. The address is at www.detroitccw.com. My blog is called Legally Armed in Detroit. Rick wants everybody in the city of Detroit to get laid. Legally Armed in Detroit. Just Google it. You'll find it. You want to catch me on Facebook? Look me up, Rick Ector. I'm on Facebook. I'm on MySpace and on Twitter. Come join the over 11,000 people that are following me on Twitter. My Twitter name is Detroit CCW. So all you have to do is do twitter.com/Detroit CCW. You'll find me. I also got over 1,500 personal protection and legal information on like 1,500 videos on my YouTube channel. That address is youtube.com/Detroit CCW.
Awesome. Well, Rick, I appreciate you coming on the show. You're definitely welcome anytime. Like I said, again, I know how busy you are, so I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much. And again, we'll be reaching out to you. Hopefully, we can have you come on and promote the open carry event a couple times so we can get more people out there. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
All right, great, man. It's been a pleasure, and it's been an honor to be on the show. I've been watching the cavalcade of big-timers and heavy hitters and big shots, pun intended, come on your show. It is indeed an honor for me to be here.
Oh, no, it's an honor to have you on. Thank you again.
All right, take care, Wayne.
All right, have a good evening. God bless you.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
Good night. All right. That was Rick Ector over at Detroit CCW on Twitter. He's, like I said, he's an NRA instructor, and I appreciate him for coming on the show. I encourage you to go check out his website. And if you're in the area, in the Detroit area, you need to go get laid. Get legally armed in Detroit. I like saying that. That's funny. But I appreciate you coming on the show. If you got any questions, give us a call, 347-996-3175. I want to know, what do you think about the current administration's stance on Second Amendment rights? Eric Holder believes that Second Amendment does not extend to the individual's rights. So obviously he believes the only people that need to have guns are criminals and police officers. So give me a call. I want to hear from you, 347-996-3175. Again, I want to thank Rick Ector for coming on the show tonight. It was a real pleasure talking to him about gun rights, and I hope that you will show up at the live carry event on August 22nd. August 22nd at Belle Isle, starting at 10 a.m. I'm sure you know who will be there. I'm going to reach out to Thomas Matos, who's Lieutenant Governor candidate with Stacey Mathia, who will be on the show soon. He is a very heavy advocate of open carry and Second Amendment rights. So that could be a good turnout, a good event there. Give me a call, 347-996-3175. Going to be getting off the air soon. I want to thank everybody that's been listening in. Next week on Fix Michigan Mondays, I think it's Memorial Day, so I will be taking that day off. But next week we'll have new shows on Tuesday. I believe the Star Parker show will be on Tuesday, so I'm looking forward to that. Give me a call, 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you. I got my reasons. Okay, we got a couple people on here this evening on the chat room. I've got a few more minutes left here on the show, so give me a call or give me some action here on the chat rooms. How you doing? I got my reasons, and Yaya Shaka Anku. Hope I'm saying that right. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening in. I want to hear your opinions on Second Amendment rights. And what do you think? How do you feel about the current administration's stand, saying that the Second Amendment rights don't extend to the individual? Give me a call, 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you. Did you call in 1 second? Well, I want to hear from you. I got my reasons. Give me a call. 347-996-3175. I want to hear from you. Hi, Yaya. I hope I'm saying that right. Yaya Shaka Anku. Thank you for listening in. Where are you calling from? All right, I got a call here. I'm going to take it. Caller, you're on the air.
Hey, how's it going? I got my reasons calling in from New York. How are you tonight?
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I just wanted to, I think you're misrepresenting the president. I think his position on the Supreme Court reversing the ban on Second Amendment stuff was positive. I just put a link in your chat room from The Guardian, from a UK source.
Okay.
Were you unaware of this, or are you just?
No, I'm gonna take a look at it. Now, when you say that I'm misrepresenting him, why do you feel that way? I mean, he's been very he's kind of been clear about how they feel about handguns, and they did talk about reviving talks on the assault weapons ban. So for someone that's pro guns, is going to come off as he's.
When did Obama say he was against was for assault?
No, Holder did, his Attorney General.
Well,
again, that was and he's they're backing down from it because they got so many other issues. I don't think they really want to tackle gun rights right now, but they've been very clear from the very beginning that was. Eric Holder, he said on his own that he does not believe the Second Amendment was entitled to individual rights. I mean, if that doesn't sound like someone that doesn't believe that we should have individual rights to protect ourselves, I don't know what how.
Well, I'm more concerned with what Obama said and what he's on record saying about the Supreme Court, specifically, the Second Amendment decision, that he supports it. So wouldn't that contradict? I mean, you're trying to say that what Holder says is indicative of like an entire approach or something like that.
That's his Attorney General.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that speaks that's very loudly to what.
No, that's
people he
like
puts
you're
in charge.
talking
I mean, like
conspiracy
did you
theory,
hear my guest? He said that Sotomayor didn't even want to. She couldn't even answer the question: does every person in America have the right to protect themselves in that manner? I mean,
so you're quoting a random guest as well to support what you think Barack Obama stands for?
I'm asking you, do you believe that?
Do I believe what? What's the question?
Do you believe that we all have the individual rights to protect ourselves, or do you think that's something that should only be applied to, obviously, to police officers?
No, I think we have the right, but I don't think that limits the government's ability to put certain laws in place.
Well, you live in New York, so do you think the gun laws in New York are fair?
I do, and I think they're very effective. We have one of the lowest murder rates by weapons in the country. We're down to like 1960s murder rates in New York City, partially because of what Giuliani did, and partially because of mandatory sentencing for gun violations.
I don't have a problem with mandatory sentencing because that's the idea of someone that's breaking the law. But if you're a law-abiding citizen with no criminal background...
But here's the problem. Detroit has a serious problem with gun crime, right?
Right.
Okay. Here's the problem with that. If we discuss it politically versus what actually works, you just said that you support, mandatory gun sentencing because it only affects criminals. So why wouldn't you, right?
For criminals.
Yeah, it only affects criminals. If you get caught holding up a liquor store with a weapon, you're in more trouble than if you did it without one, right?
Okay.
Okay, so the problem is that stuff like that gets lumped in under the umbrella of gun control when pro-gun people are scoring political points, and they'll use a law like that to say that New York City has restrictive gun laws.
Chicago's actually calling in the National Guard to help them with their crime problems there. They don't have those. They have some very restrictive gun laws, but it does not deter criminals.
I don't live in Chicago. I live in New York. And like I said,
I'm just giving you another example of where all these people are, when they gun control cities, it makes it harder for the people that for law-abiding citizens who actually want to have the right, who have the right to protect themselves. It makes it harder for them to do it. It does not make it any harder.
The fact that it works in New York, and there's obviously a different combination of laws. If it works here and it doesn't work there, then it isn't gun control that's the problem, is it? You can't have it both ways. I mean, if Chicago's a very large city.
Right.
It has pretty much the same problems New York City has on a slightly smaller scale. Mm-hmm. And New York City is often, often talked about as a city with strong gun control laws or whatever. So what's the difference? Why does it work in our city and not in Chicago?
That's a good question. The point what I would make out is that the people in Chicago, who, again, this is a Second Amendment right issue, they want to have the right to protect themselves, and they can't because of those gun laws, because of those measures. Now, you can say, you're right, part of the reason why it works in New York is because of the mandatory sentencing.
Right.
But again, there's still criminals that have. It's easier for a criminal to get a gun in New York than it is for a law-abiding citizen.
That's not true. It's simply not true. The other thing that we do in New York is we sue out-of-state gun suppliers. So people that buy weapons in Virginia and try to sell them in New York and stuff like that, we have this whole campaign to follow serial numbers and all this stuff that actually works to deter criminals from getting illegal weapons.
I mean, people scratch off gun numbers off of guns. I mean, that's like I said, not to say that it doesn't work and it hasn't had an impact, because obviously it has in New York.
Okay, so if it's had an impact, then that would be a common sense thing that somebody would want to do that doesn't affect any legal gun sales.
So what would be your reasoning for what's happening in Chicago? Why are they having to call in the National Guard to help protect them? Because again, they don't have those same rights.
Well, the honest answer to that is that I don't know. I mean, there's many other factors besides just the laws on the books. So if you have an increase in gang activity or crime activity in a certain city, it's usually not caused by bad gun laws. I mean, you just said yourself that a gun law is not going to keep a criminal from getting a weapon. So because you're but the only thing those gun laws are really doing is restricting law-abiding citizens from having the option of protecting themselves. That's the point I'm making. Is you're right. I'll say it again. It does not deter. It does not stop criminals from getting their hands on guns through any different types of circuits, whether it be through pawn shops, illegal gun salesmen, or whatever the situation is. It does not stop them. But for law-abiding citizens, they're now not going to get a gun because it's been made more difficult by the laws that obviously anti-gun people have put in place to save ourselves, essentially. That's what they're doing. Let me ask you this, because I love my city. I love being able to walk around Central Park at night, and you couldn't do that in 1980 when I got here.
You have a great police presence there. Wouldn't you agree?
It's good. The cops in New York are pretty good. Yeah. Do you
have a 28-minute response time in New York? If someone breaks in your house at 3 in the morning, is it going to be 28 minutes before a police officer gets to your house?
I don't know this. I don't know the stats on that. But I would ask you this question: what is your? I have my model city. My model city is New York City, the biggest city in the country. What's your model city for a city where everybody's armed and it's working? What you're suggesting? Where's a good example of that?
You said where's a good example of a city?
A city where people are carrying weapons and it's all good.
I'll do some research on that. Me and you need to link up. We can debate it more.
Okay, well, debating stuff is better when you have information. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, you sent me a link, so I'll check that out. But the point is, I mean, we're going back to the heart of the real issue is that's in the Second Amendment right to be able to protect yourself. And so what we have is people who want to progress past that and make it something bigger. But that's not what in the Constitution that we have a right.
That's not what gun control is about. The shooter, the Korean guy at Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm. If someone would have been in that class that had a personal protection on them,
I know the Republican
situation could have been averted.
I know the Republican talking point on it. But do you know that he had been institutionalized for depression? Now, do you think that person should be able to get a gun permit, and that if there was an effective gun permit law in place or waiting period law in place that actually checked all that data, that he would have been able to legally purchase his Glock, which
in Michigan, again, that's in West Virginia or Virginia. In Michigan, you do have a waiting period.
They have a waiting period there. They have a waiting period there, but they didn't catch him because the data that they're allowed to look at is not complete enough.
Right.
So he passed the waiting period. He legally purchased his weapons.
Again, what I'm saying is that's a bad scenario right there.
Yeah.
But could it not have been better? Maybe someone in that class would have been armed.
What about?
Is that a fair argument to make that if someone in that class that had the right to protect themselves was in there, that situation could have been it could have been less bad than it turned out to be? Maybe instead of as many casualties, it could have been 1 or 2 as opposed to 18, 19 people that got wounded or killed? I mean, it could have been a lot different if someone was able to protect them.
That's definitely a possibility. But if I was going to roll the dice, for my 2 cents, I would rather have less people able to use deadly force than, than that.
Let the criminals use all the deadly force.
No, that's not what I'm not saying acquiesce to criminals. I'm saying that you in that particular case is a rare case of something that doesn't happen that often, and I would rather see, because here's the thing that's, accidental gun deaths are very high in this country. Mm-hmm. Suicide gun deaths are very high in this country. So if you have somebody that's packing a weapon who's a legal citizen, who's basically like, a little paranoid and sees, I mean, you know enough about accidental shootings and stuff like that. Like see somebody like trying to who they determine is suspicious going to make a cell phone call or something like that, and they end up shooting them. I would rather have that person not have the ability to just carry a weapon anywhere he wants. I mean, that's just.
You're in a sense you could pick situations obviously where you wouldn't want that person to be a gun owner, just like the person you said at the Virginia Tech killing. But again, I think when it gets down to it, this is America, and everyone has that right. And unless you're proven otherwise, you should, unless you have a felony or proven to be mentally not capable of doing that, I think that everyone has that right. And again, only thing, the argument that me and the guest had was that once you put these strict gun law licenses in, the only thing it really does is it makes it more difficult for law-abiding citizens. It does not.
But that's what a gun law is supposed to make it more difficult for law-abiding citizens. I mean, the gun laws that are in place now make it more difficult. Why would
you want to make it tougher for law-abiding citizens? Why not something to deter strictly the criminals? And maybe something that
would you get rid of the laws that exist now? Would you get rid of a waiting period and common sense laws that slow down the process by which a legal citizen can get a gun? Because that doesn't seem smart to me.
No, I wouldn't get rid of the waiting period. And there are loopholes at gun shows and different things like that are making it possible for people to get their hands on access to guns quicker. But I don't think I think when you start opening up the door to restricting people's rights.
But the door's already open. If you have those laws in place, if you want to be strictly constitutionalist about it, if you have those laws in place, that means the door's open.
We don't need to open it any more than it already is then.
What about people on the terrorism watch list? How do you feel about that? That debate just came up. That the guy, that people on a terror watch list right now can buy weapons. Are you okay with that?
Am I okay with people on the terrorist watch list buying weapons? No, yeah. That's the bureaucratic problems we have with all of our law agencies.
But the people on the right, people that are Republicans in our Senate, are arguing against including the terrorism watch list on people that are restricted from buying firearms over esoteric Second Amendment rights issues.
Well, I would rather. You got to understand from where they come from is once you start encroaching on people's rights,
you're right.
For more people to do it, and that's you have to. I respect that. I don't like the idea of that, but the idea is that you would let a few terrorists, or because we're not worried about them buying assault rifles. We're more worried about them blowing up things. To that extent. So I understand where you're coming from.
You know how crazy that sounds? That it's like you're okay with terrorists buying assault weapons because they haven't staged any major assault weapon attack yet.
They profile that. They know what they're looking for, and that has not been their protocol. I mean, would you agree? That's not their. That's
I don't agree. What happened in India?
They're more concerned about our own people in America, domestic terrorists getting their hands on these kind of weapons than they are someone foreign. So that's an issue that we would have to deal with based on what we've seen so far, and that has not happened yet.
The Pentagon shooter from like a month and a half ago,
or Fort Hood. Now that happened.
Yeah, well, those guys had guns. I mean, that's not using guns. I
think the overall thing is we can't let one or two people, because that's when you let the terrorists win. Once they've encroached on our freedoms, once they've taken away the things that make America special, make us unique, that's exactly what they won regardless. If you start taking away all our rights, there's certain things in the Patriot Act that people did not like because you're taking away people's rights that were God-given. You know what I mean? So, but look, I've got 10 seconds left. Let's go back to the chat room real quick, and let's exchange some information, because I enjoyed talking with you. I really did.
All right, take it easy.
All right, thanks a lot for calling in.
Sure. Good night.
Good night. And this is Wayne Bradley. I got 5 seconds left. Good night. God bless you. And go to